Right now, Beastie almost tripling up Viper's kill count in this game. Someone else to fanboy over. Ooh, more Viper gameplay. God, how predictable, Pigeon. Up against Beastie as well. So I'll have you know, this is totally acceptable to just keep going the same place. As I've got a feeling these guys might end up matching up against each other time and time again. There's just not enough people up there searching at the highest level. But you know what? I would not be against these guys hopping into more of the mega random modes. Would appreciate that. But looks like for the moment it is going to be in the 1v1s on the ranked leaderboards. Right now, these guys are at the tippity top. Beastie sitting in first and then Viper in third. And it's quite crazy how quickly the numbers decrease by the time you're down to the 10th highest person. So really, these guys are just racing towards 2K. I mean, Beastie at this stage is at 1877 rating. Very close to cracking the 2K mark in the ranked leaderboards. Will be the first person to do so. Viper at 1740 right now. The crazy part is the difference in win rate. So Viper has played 187 games compared to Beastie's 109. But Viper has 77.5% win rate. Meanwhile, Beastie's at a 92.7% win rate. Crazy numbers right there. And here in an English-French matchup, I can't help but feel like the English have been deceitful recently. Like their matchups have been getting better with the changes recently, with the way that it's now being played as a civilization. In fact, if we look at the highest level of play, so we'll say Platinum and above, and we look at the French versus English matchup, French are still positive at 52.6% win rate, but I have to wonder how much that is skewed by the English spamming that has been going on in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I do think the English have a lot of upsides. It's just a little bit more finicky to play against the French. The reason being is this is an aura-based civ, so you have to rely upon outposts to fully exploit your civ. You're up against a tempo civ that plays midfield with cavalry. It's very difficult to get those initial holdings down to play off the back of your attack speed buffer. And if you're not playing off the back of your attack speed buffer and you're both, say, playing towards cavalry, then you're essentially just losing outright because the French cavalry get better damage after they charge and also have a lot of beneficial techs as the game goes on. So, kind of curious to see what Viper's going to do with this opening. I'm expecting a delayed feudal type opening. I wouldn't be against necessarily even go for an early racks to get a few spinning out to defend you. Just because I like this idea of bolstering your eco. I think it's the better way to play the English. The old school way of rushing into a council hall and then spamming out a few lombos is dead. And you definitely don't want to be doing that against the French. I say it's dead. There's a very, very fine situations where, like a very thin amount of situations where you want to do it. Against the French, there is realistically no situation in which you want a lombo rush. So I think it just makes more sense to get 4 to 6 farms at least down and then boom up. I think 6 is reasonable against the French because after that you start to branch further away from your TC and are more exposed. But Viper says, shut the hell up, Pigeon. You're not a top 10 player. You don't get to tell me what to do. Straight away with the council hall. Interested to see what he's going to do here as well. I mean, it could be a horseman push to try and overwhelm the knights. But then he wouldn't be going to the council hall. So not really sure what the thought process is here. It's Viper, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get treated to multi-TCs. This guy seems to do multi-TC more than almost any other player right now in the current meta. And in fairness, we can't really judge him or doubt him. I mean, Viper is arguably seen as like the best English player right now after his performance in the round 2 of Golden League, I believe it was. Let's see if that holds up there, because in fairness, Beastie is no stranger to the English. Like, he's considered another one of those kind of top 5, definitely top 10 players. And Beastie, in a lot of people's eyes, is kind of setting the standard with a lot of these different civs. Things like the Mongols especially come to mind, where he's just dictating the flow. And, well, this is one of those civs where you can dictate the flow. And I like watching Beastie when he plays the French, because he has a very different approach, to be fair. Most players are just going for these kind of, you know, cavalry and then get 3 to 4 different groups of French knights and overwhelm your opponents. Meanwhile, Beastie is an exploitive type player. If he sees an opportunity to eco boom, even with the French, he'll take it. So kind of intrigued to see if he's going to do that. This is a guy that likes to build 3 TCs sometimes, maybe even 4 as the French. And I wouldn't say that's off the table for him in this type of matchup. Especially knowing that Viper likes to TC boom himself. So it could just turn into a race. And considering Viper already has 3 people on the stone, might be that. But more likely what we're going to see out of him with 3 people on stone is a play into outposts early on. And oh my, did he get the villager? He got the villager. Oh, Beastie. Well, we talked about this exploitive greed that he likes to go into. Sometimes it's more encouraged. In this situation, it's just outright being greedy and getting punished for it. Tech up time is going to be more or less neck and neck. Scout gets scared away, and he can go back to harassing the villagers if he chooses. And he most definitely should be choosing to do that. He's a little bit hesitant, you can see, because one of the scouts is low health. But, drunk riding. So it'll just be a little bit of a pain in the ass. And no knights coming out just yet. Instead, there's a blacksmith first. BC delaying the first knight, despite the fact he has plenty of gold. And it looks like he's going to pull more people to the villager line. Trying to get on that gold. Up to 6 now. And Scout's just kind of getting a free time of it. Meanwhile, back in base, it is going to be the multi-TC play. Viper ups the number up to 9 now, so no outpost rush. Understandable considering the distance you'd have to cover and the fact your opponent's already in feudal. But in the meantime, these scouts are being an absolute pain in the ass. Not able to get that straight. That would have been big. Getting rid of the vision would have been huge here. But it will keep being annoying for the villagers. Villagers not able to overwhelm, instead being shifted back. And BC kind of frustrated with the state of the game right now. Is at least going to have the knights that should buffer these scouts away. But you can only buffer them away. It can't kill them off. Because remember, they both move at 1.62 movement speed. However, with the charge, if Viper's not paying attention, it's going to be a hard one. You'll get the initial charge in, but after that, it should just be an easy runaway. And all the while this is happening, what has he been doing as a result of this? He's been denying vision. BC has to be aware as well, which is why he shifts across to the scout. He sniffs that something is wrong. Understandable in this situation. He will not be denied for long. He will move out just in time to spot the town center being boomed up. I like this layout from Viper as well. Plays around the mill, fully insulates it, doesn't get greedy so he won't be raided easily by knights, and it chains into his gold vein. So this should allow Viper to quickly boom up in a castle where he can realize his potential in the midfield with his own knights. Meanwhile, Beastie is going to be lagging behind in that regard because he's only 1 TC, hasn't gone onto the stone at all yet, is starting to build on the knights, but it's a question mark as to whether he'll be able to extract much value out of them now. That was the first knight riding in. He did get the blacksmith, so it's only 2 taps to kill these villagers. Would be curious to see if Viper has any intent to go for tech stars. Is very valuable up against the French here, so they can't just 1-2 tap you instantly. Although if they forget to pull their lance out, they can't 1-2 tap anyway. So double fire from the TC will at least scare him away. Meanwhile, Scout, ambitious in its battle it chooses. And Lombo's starting to be produced, so Viper not willing to just bend over and take a shellacking here. What's happening? BC is going to start to pocket eco as expected. Some of them we are used to seeing the French do, always have been. It's something they love to do. In this situation, he will fully get away with it, as there's no likelihood that the Viper is going to aggress him before Castle Age. And Castle Age should be what he's aiming for, but instead, he's just reinvesting, which is really concerning when you see what Beastie is doing. Beastie has no intent of lagging about here. Like, he's going to head up to Castle very fast, and that's concerning, folks, because realistically, with this type of build, the recovery point for Viper is going into Castle, getting your own knights out ahead of a tech up from the French player, and then overwhelming him. But in this situation, Beastie is going to have a quantity of knights in his favor and arriving Castle ahead of Viper, which will put him in a dominant position to box the Snake Man in. There it is. Question is it going to be the Guildhall? Of course it's going to be the Guildhall. It's Beastie, come on, guys. He loves to exploit this, to use it in that hyper late game when you start to drain the map. Not often we see him go into the Royal Institute instead. And that Lombo investment has cost Viper dearly. Now the racks as well. This is not looking good, folks. I mean, the amount you just invested there alone, like 9 times 8. I definitely know the number off by heart. I'm kidding, it's 720. It's a lot of resources. In fact, that is over a third of your tech up. And you can see it represented in the numbers. He's miles behind. Racks as well, it's another 150 wood. On top of that, the spin you're pushing out there. Like, this is what's slowing him down. Not the farms. The farms, remember, are at least cheap. Only 37 wood each. It's everything else is a problem for him right now. And you would feel like Viper's eco should be stronger. But you have to remember this secondary TC was a little bit delayed in coming out, as he shifted a lot of people over the stone afterwards and then had to run back. So overall, not really extracting the full value you'd expect, especially considering he didn't go on the deer. That's the other issue of what he done here. He played the town center towards the gold to protect and insulate and make sure he didn't get stopped from going castle on the gold line. But as a result, he sacrificed the potential to go for the deer. He actually could have played up towards here with the deer and the gold. The reason he didn't do so is because he was hoping to rely heavily upon static defenses to hold back the knights. And as we saw, that wasn't enough. So after he does this and then invests into the Lombos, it's like a double thumbs down for him. Viper is not happy with what he's had to buy here. And he realizes at the moment Beastie techs up, how far he is now behind him. Especially considering Beastie goes straight into the monastery. He knows exactly what Viper's going to play for. We're so used to seeing it out of him. He loves to pull onto these relics as quickly as possible once he cracks castle, and that's just not a feasible option right now. And Beastie knows it. He sees all these farms. He understands how delayed Viper's now going to be. Yes, his food will boost up like crazy in the next 2 minutes, but in the meantime, it's relic farming day. Beastie should be able to easily secure 4 relics in the coming minutes, especially with knights prowling around that midfield. Oh, but this is big. They're sneaking. Viper, look what he found. Villagers peeling off here. No textiles either. Heavy damage being done. Spearman able to chase down. Villagers just a little bit quicker, but if you get in charge range. And Beastie, that is the edge of the map, sir. You need to run the other way. Oh my god. Oh, look how many of them are almost dead. 2 go down. Nice micro out of Viper. Even reaches in for other ones here. That's a lot of dead villagers. Beastie now trailing behind by almost 10 eco units. Yes, he's a tech up ahead, but he needs to find a way of diving in and punishing Viper for this double TC play. Spearman's still chasing. Longbow's, of course, way too slow at 1.12 movement speed, so villagers will keep dancing for a while. Maybe you get them out, but oh god, the Spearman. The Spearman! This is the problem. Like, even if they run away, they're not gathering, right? So realistically, in your mind, like, this isn't a 10 eco lead. This is actually like a 14 eco lead for Viper. This might be the one play you can make with a wall. Nice ride in from the Knights. Needs to brace. Viper, good micro. Brace off the mark, though. Spin with the bonus damage coming out. Knight being targeted out. Lombo able to fell one of them. Maybe can take a second one with them, but afterwards they should be dying here. Nice micro off. Beastie makes sure he keeps the secondary Knight alive. Does get the villagers out. However, the Monk now being pursued. We'll go for the wall low. Viper. That's too late. That's too late. That was less than 0.1 seconds difference there. It looks like Beastie will make it back now. Nice outpost. I love this. This is something I always praise Beastie for. He's like the only French player I see do this. Not many players do build outposts as the French, but I've seen him do this frequently. I've seen him do it sometimes to deny his opponent's resource at the beginning. I've seen him do it in the midfield. It's great vision. It's a good reset point. It's so damn useful, and I want to see more players doing this because it really does help a lot. I feel like a lot of French players get cocky because they have cavalry, and they're like, I don't need this. I already control the midfield. But having a nice, soft kind of buffer point is never something to turn your nose up at. Look at that. There it is. Beastie in with the secondary TC. And looks like he's going to stop at 2 for the moment. I wouldn't have been surprised if he went for a third. Meanwhile, Viper has plenty of gold, but needs to sort the food, and that should be fixed in the next minute, especially with that income. Look at that, 1,000 gold per minute. Now, keep in mind, although Beastie's ahead in terms of tech and looks decent on the military side, he still has that awkward transition into farms ahead of him, unless he wants to keep playing out into pocket ecos. These pocket ecos will get dangerous in the coming minutes, especially if Viper keeps pulling small contingents of spears and lombos like he is. In the meantime, Monk is just bragging about this. Like, boy, look what I found. It's the biggest one we've ever caught. Oh, wait, we're not fishing. Okay, just put it. Yeah, there we go. So it's going to be 4 relics going his way. The 5th one might be a little bit difficult. One of Viper will still play towards the monastery just to secure 1. It does pay for itself after a few minutes, but it doesn't feel good to only be playing for 1. But then again, it's extra denial, right? Because otherwise, it's like, you always have to think of, when you think about, ooh, nice snipe. So when you think about these relics, think about it more than just 100 gold per minute. It's actually a 200 gold swing, right? If both players are playing towards monasteries or want to play towards monasteries, every relic you take away is not only you get 100 gold, it's your opponent missing out on 100 gold. That's a big difference. Oh, and the King's Palace Viper! He gets spotted trying to go for it. Beastie is even going to snipe a few of the villies before exiting, and he has to be very chuffed with that. So Viper probably has to pull the King's Palace here, and yeah, it will be on the opposite side. little bit closer to base. Unfortunately, he wanted to move north towards this other tree line. Instead, have to just consolidate on a tree line that was more or less already guaranteed. Well, that's happening. Viper raiding over at one of the pocket ecos, but BC quick to get those upgrades. The Spring was a frustration for these very lightly armored units coming out so far. Meanwhile, Knights will try to ride in again, cycle charging, trying to bait out attention wherever they can. Viper will be able to achieve his castle age. Question mark is what he can do with it next, because remember, although he's going to keep an eco lead, Beastie now has the relic advantage. In fact, there should be 5 relics going his way. Yep, already on his way back. Even gets additional monks. He's going for the sacred sites as well. So he's really going to look to force Viper out of his base quicker than he's ready. Because although you do look at the eco advantage and you see, you know, Viper's ahead by 8, these relics are making a big difference right now. In fact, with that 4th relic banked, it's going to be essentially 10 extra villages in Beastie's eco count, which puts him ahead of Viper. Of course, Viper does have his own benefits with the mills giving the increased efficiency right on the food side. But that's essentially one player playing for food, one player playing for gold. And you have to question mark who uses which better, who needs which more. I feel like food is really important for both of them, but gold could be the difference maker, considering that logically in this situation, a lot of time English players want to play towards Knights. I don't want to see that out of Viper, though. I think he's too late up into Castle. It should probably be crossbowmen and spears, although these crossbowmen are a thing that costs gold. And if you're limited on the gold front, like, you're going to be in trouble. It also means that you have to be very methodical about how you move out into the map. Because you're playing with static forces, you need to move out, drop a keep, drop an outpost, or wall up as you look to secure these new resource areas. Because you won't have the means to respond north and south the same way Beastie will with a composite of mainly cavalry. In fact, it's almost exclusively cavalry. It looks like he's got 1 or 2 archery ranges, so there's going to be an Arbaletier switch up. Seems he's assuming his opponent's going to go into man-at-arms, and as we can see, that's just a lie. Viper right now already understands the read of the game is perfect for him. He knows that his opponent's going to be expecting man-at-arms, and he just wants to play spears to counter him out. And the amazing part is that Beastie won't expect this straight away, considering he's already seen spears push. So in his eyes, these are just residual spears that are pretty cheap to upgrade, that Viper wants to just keep finding some roaming value out of. And it looks like Beastie will now react. So straight up into the veteran archers instead. I think he did scout some of this out, right? Yeah, that's what it is. The outpost. So he would have just came in vision. So I think he just about saw the spearmen. And then that gives him the double confirmation, like, okay, no other Arbaletier is required. Just archers. Even better value for him. Remember, one costs 80, one costs 120. So he's got to be smiling right now on these warlocks, Beastie. Get out. Get out. Run. Booker. Looks like 2 or 3 villagers should be going down here. Even the textiles upgrade. That's a few too many lombos and spears. Just about makes his way out. But it's not often you get to see that. Look at that. Oh, that feels good. That feels good right there. I'm not much of a religious man, but if you offered me that, I'd take it. Viper still being a little bugger, I believe is the reasonable term. I can do some decent damage here. Especially if you catch them off guard. Like, if BC doesn't insta-react, he's going to lose probably 3 villages, possibly more than that, actually. He'll will it away now. 1, 2 going down. 3rd one. Not quite able to find it. If he focus fired, he would have got it, though. Spears that they brace. They could do a lot of damage here. Viper baits him in. Brace comes out a little bit late there. Nice micro. BC just peeling off any heavily injured knights. Looks to keep them all alive, and the trade is incredibly one-sided. Yes, you get 1 or 2 of the villies, but the knights barely dented there. Good micro. While that's happening, you can already see Beastie's amassing forces on the front, getting ready to move. Knights on the north side, baiting away Viper, making sure that he's reacting instead of being proactive. And as a result, Beastie will shift in the center on the south side, walling himself in and carving out a giant chunk of the map for himself. Viper, now it's hard into the archers. He is fully committing here. Lombo, Spearman, and that is going to be it. This is some day 1 English right here. He's going to reset Beastie to day 0 at this stage. You feel like he wasn't born yet if this works out. A lot of effort being put into getting rid of this outpost. A lot of Spearmen dying for it as well. Lombos as well. These trades are really bad for Viper. I think he jumped the gun here. And oh no, now the Knights got in. Try and move past. Man-at-Arms starting to be pushed now by Viper. Garrison looking to come out, but Beastie flooding through, looking to snipe out any villagers he can get his hands on, but doesn't want to do it too soon, doesn't want to expose himself to the spearman, pinching him from behind. Instead, he'll just be happy with all the idle eco as he wheels out the other side, also forcing all the melee force onto the back four. And that means that he's able to keep amassing archers at the front. And all the while, he's still around the back, right? He's still a threat. He's still something that Viper has to address. But he's never truly able to with just a group of spearmen like this. Viper looks like he's trying to grab a keep. Needs it soon as well. Probably looking to play towards the northern sacred sites here. Wouldn't be against one over here on the wood line and the stone line. Especially considering the gold is now secure over here. Could be that he chooses to carve it up here as well, just to take that gold vein away from Beastie. And that would be big. I mean, Beastie, he has got a lot of reserve gold is the problem. It's only small veins, but add in the fact that he has 5 relics, I don't see a world in which you gold starve Beastie. Instead, you just need to play towards some sort of territorial advantage to give you a staging point to his base. Because if you just try to play passive and play it off of resource exhaustion, I do think Beastie comes out ahead. You have to remember that he's got all this gold being gathered from the monasteries. He also has the guild hall just accruing crap tons of resources. In fact, look at that right now. 3,900 resources waiting to be yoinked. It's getting a little bit worrisome. These raids will finally come to an end. Nice pinch there, Viper. Able to strike and take out 3 of the 5 knights. 2 of them will just about limp away. Most of the aggression gone for the moment. But as soon as it's gone to the north, it comes in the south. And the only thing going down here is going to be the eco count. Has to pull everything back and far away. Knights splitting up to look for targets. Not enough spearmen to hold them at bay. Beastie looking to dive deeper into the eco lines. And Viper out of position, displaced by 2 knights and unable to instantly react to this. He's going to have to react with a peel back. Pushes all the villagers into garrison points as fast as possible. A lot of idle eco coming out for Viper right now. Idle eco he can't really afford. You can see he's not really building up much in the way of surplus. Meanwhile, Beastie, it seems like an inefficient trade, but he knows he can afford it. Look at the gold right now. He is so healthy in that department. Yes, the food is a little bit worrisome for him, right? But overall, if you're able to stunt Viper's growth to escalate towards maybe Imperial, you feel pretty cozy about this game. Speaking of which, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Beastie soon looks to just tap up Imperial himself. Does need to address the military count first, though. Archers trying to deal with the spears. Not many knights here. Beastie, a weird fight to take. Really wanted to protect the outpost. It'll finally go down. It was a pricey investment to get rid of for Viper, but Beastie made it somewhat worthwhile with this exchange at the end. Losing more troops than maybe he should have. In the end, Beastie able to back up defenses, and Viper needs to be careful about pursuing this any further. As that keep is a problem he's yet to have solved. However, keep monastery in the center. Looks like he's playing for the sacred sites now. Good gold trickle that he can get if he holds over this north side. But look what's happening before he can even think about it. Beastie moving out and drop the keep here. While that's happening, Viper back in base looking to imp it up as he moves forward of Beastie up into Imperial Age. With the Wingard Palace, it will be his win condition, allowing him to cheaply access those trebuchets. This double keep with the Maginot line that's being built, Beastie could be in trouble because this time around, I think the French's opponent is going to try to breach straight through the heavily fortified line. And he's going to force your hand. College Artillery is the choice for Beastie. Not seeing any value right now in the Red Palace. Instead, he will get the supreme artillery advantage over the English. This breach by Viper is ambitious, to say the least. He has a very positive outlook if he ever thought he was going to get through here. Let's say that. Looks like he could if you want to, but what's the point for a keep to just kill you instantly afterwards? You can just walk north. Beastie prevented from getting that network of outposts up, but overall, I feel like Beastie's in a pretty comfortable position. He's willing the trebs out first. He's going to look to start breaching defenses. Outposts going up, which I think is a really solid move out of him. I think the cool thing about putting these outposts is not just the vision, it's also the denial of area from Viper. Viper should realistically have these outposts, but has been unable to obtain that objective at any stage. And it just means that Beastie has a clearer, definitive point of defense in the center than Viper does. And there you go, Beastie not far behind, instantly decides to tech up just behind Viper. Now it is Imperial on Imperial. This is where things get interesting because Viper, although he's behind in the income for gold, he can start to fix that now with the enclosures. Finally coming out, just completed as we mentioned it, and this is where you're going to see that number start to surge forward. allow him to catch up to what the numbers are that Beastie are putting out. Words Beastie is putting out. Trebs now starting to come out is a frustration. We'll have to pull a hard repair crew to keep this alive. Pull to the north side. Looks like Viper is trying to deny any sort of gain around these sacred sites, but this is a sneak. And it's not from the snake. And Beastie's getting away with one villager over here. More coming, though. They want the stone. They want the keep. They want the fat gold. Mainly because he knows how badly Viper's going to need it in the coming minutes. Because he still has plenty in reserve. You can see he's tapping it down over here. About 4K left in the bottom corner. Still one down. Ignored by both sides for now. Fat Gold Vein still has plenty left for Viper, though, so no rush to get out here, but it is going to be an edge for Beastie in that late game. An edge that he needs in the gold department, because despite the fact that he does have all those banked relics, he is now playing up against English enclosures. Something he's astutely aware of. Trebs. Let's not talk about that. We'll just rename this one Stormtrooper. Plenty of Lombos moving forward. Spearman as well. Treb starting to wheel out for Viper. He's moving in fast here. Beastie is going to have to be wrapped soon. Golden Hat upgrades coming out on both sides. Still need to upgrade those archers, though. Arbitrary is now in the mix for Viper. And looks like he is going to go for the Arbitrary upgrade first. Hasn't gone to the Crossbow Stirrups or the Gambesons just yet. I'd say Crossbow Stirrups, maybe decent. Not sure if you need the Gambesons necessarily. You just need a strong front line. You're mainly looking to just breach the Spearman and then flood through the Knights wherever you can. And look at the pull of Culverins here. Big deal. Could do some serious damage. Only 12 car range, mind you, compared to 16, so you are going to have to get close. And Culverins don't necessarily move very fast. They're incredibly slow at 0.72 movement speed. March out. Knights trying to force the braids, bait him a little bit. And oh, the volley used very early by Viper. He gets baited into this. Fight about to clash. They both get in range of each other. The Knights just trying to breach through, taking him down as he shifts past them straight on top of the Longbowman. And that means the Archers can clean up the remaining Spearmen. Garrett round going to be given over. Viper has to back away from this. Yes, Lombos can be pretty strong at this stage, especially with the attack speed buffer, but it's still these chunky Knights with 8 missile resistance that you're up against. Not to mention the Royal Bloodlines, which hasn't come out just yet. But Beastie continues to push forward. Viper doesn't have much of a front line, but definitely has a good backbone at the back of it. This many archers in the mixer. With the focus fire required on the man-at-arms and the spears, Viper for the moment is holding, but the Knights being renewed and pushed out is now becoming problematic as Viper no longer has a counter to this, and they are mighty chunky. Treb staying alive for the moment. Culverins, Bombard's building up. It feels like at the end of this fight, the problem that I'm seeing is that Beastie, he has a solid backline solution. Viper doesn't have the same. These trebuchets can't really do anything in comparison to the Royal Cannons and the Culverins being pushed by the French. That's why he needs to access it quickly. Those cannons, if we change targets, we'll have to fixate upon the man-at-arms. Villagers even be pulled as well. Viper throwing everything into the front line here. Knights will be there to match him and dispatch him. Villagers pulled to make sure the repairs come out. Beastie will give over nothing for free. Production kept up in the moment for Viper, but Viper is starting to drain himself dry on the wood front, which means this Lombo line might be hard to replace. The man-at-arms being just eviscerated by the Culverins one by one. The double keep fire as well. This dive-in Viper making a mistake here. He actually needs to cover the trebuchets, though, to get rid of the keeps, but the villager pull on point from Beastie going to keep the defenses alive as he pushes him back once more. And this time, look how small the Lombo count is. It is shrinking very quickly here. Viper struggling to replace Beastie. It seems like he's taking bad trades, but at the end of the day, the fact he keeps the siege alive is the big deal breaker. Throwing away Knights time and time again to gain a little bit of ground or buy some time for a retreat back towards these keeps that are defending him. The Viper renewing the push, moving in on the trebuchet now. Culverin's going to turn to fire upon the front line. Choke point held at the moment by the Knights and by the crossbows. Needs to get some villagers in there. Everything to block the assault. He wants the melee gone so he can then target out as ranged. Keep down to half HP, but the repair force is just too strong here. And Viper, he renews the push. More man-at-arms coming in. Treb count now going up to 3. Soon to be 4 with the Wingard power still producing armies. He's gaining some ground, but he needs these keeps done. And it's right now, it's maintained at 2k HP, but Culverins, they get some breathing room, they wheel out, and this is where the trebuchets might be forced to retreat. Attack speed buffer is there. Viper, he gets forward with the outpost, a critical requirement for him to keep pushing in. The aura on his side now as he rushes forward. The Culverin overstep, and there's not a front line anymore. Torture is going to be hurled upon them. Royal Culverin just about staying alive. Wheels away just in time. He will once again survive. BC keeping the siege alive is critical here. Heavy investments, 1,000 resources per unit, and still refusing to give any over. Viper back to the drawing board. But now he's food depleted. This is a problem. Look at the difference in kills right now. BC almost tripling up Viper's kill count in this game. And it's all because of how efficient he's being with the siege. Trebuchets are a little bit of a bait for Viper. Yes, they are cheap because of the Wingard pass, but they ain't going to be winning you anything here, son. Time to rebuild that army, but it goes both ways. BC gets a little bit of breathing room. Uses that wiggle room to move forward and start to breach the defenses. Trebuchets once again focusing on keeps. Villagers being pulled across quickly here. Frontline marching in. Beastie prepped and ready to respond. This outpost, these stables on each side, these natural choke points he's created are a problem. And Viper cannot overwhelm quick enough. Tries to here though. Assistance of one of the keeps. One does go down. Viper trying to gain that ground, looking on the Culverin, but it's just so tanky. Look at its resistance, 480 health, and it just doesn't matter. Once again, the army's gonna be wiped. Viper with huge food income, but seemingly gaining no ground with it, each time trading out the army and taking worse trades for it. 369 to 142 kills now. And the upside for Viper. Trebs still untouched. Looking to gain some more ground here. I like the pull for the outpost, but you can see how many of them are denied at this stage. He needs an anti-siege answer. He needs it fast. Maybe some knights, or possibly maybe even horsemen in the mix could help him here. Horsemen would be phenomenal at this stage up against the Arbalitriers, especially considering there's no Gambesons yet. Gambesons and crossbow stirrups have both been ignored by Beastie up to this point. Interesting choice on the stirrups as well, considering that he has plenty of surplus gold at this stage. And there it is. He finally realizes that he's going to fix that now. So Gambesons and the stirrup upgrade. Meanwhile, on the other side, it looks like we are going to see Viper going into the shattering projectiles as well as going into horsemen. I like this switch up. Even with the additional melee resistance, Arbalitriers are still incredibly flimsy up against horsemen. They'll feel that way. Culverins wheeling in. Beastie, he's just going for a full siege transition. There's just so many Culverins here now. And now the Robotiquins! Could be big, especially in the choke points, especially with his frontline holding. Arbalitriers, they need to drop the pieces. They've got the defenses down, so the range fire is not going to bother them too much. Culverins on a coffee break will finally start to engage. Mistakes being made as Beastie wasn't paying attention. He loses the keep, he loses the front line, and he might lose some ground here. Lombos marching forward, now targeting onto the siege. No front line left to hold them at bay. Gets rid of the outpost. Hand cannon is also now a problem as Viper catches Beastie with his trousers down. Quite rightly spanks him. And now with the trebuchets, the front base is slowly going to crumble. Mistakes have been made. SiegeyQt was not using the Culverins for half of that fight. And it makes it all too easy. And you see the difference. You see how much work the Culverins were doing when they're assaulting their targets, when they're taking them down one by one. They can be the difference maker. But you have to make sure they are attacking. The Robotiquin switch up still underway for Beastie. Hoping that can save the day for him. But I'm a little bit concerned, folks. Viper. He's getting the edge now, up to 5. Made that 6 trebuchets on the front line. Lombos in line formation to ensure that they can't be easily reached. Villagers starting to be exposed, and Beastie running out of resources behind his lines to exploit. And that's something that Viper will look to exploit. As he spots the northern expansion, a new proxy base being built up. Will force Viper's attention, or does it? Alternatively, he could just push straight through the center. There's a lot of value over here. A lot of exposed military infrastructure. Horsemen, oh, they catch the villagers building up. Knights are going to be quick to respond at least, but SiegeyQt, he does get the walls up. He's pretty safe here. Beastie, maybe he could make a play on the north side. He could try to play into Horseman himself, which looks like that's the intent, and then march in from the north. But it feels so hard to breach now. Like, Viper has got a good foothold. I feel like that Culverin misplay, maybe it still would have went the way of Viper, but he wouldn't have had a big force afterwards to push in with. And you can see the power of this. Like, when they are being utilized correctly, the damage they can do is huge. And the Robotiquin count up to 4 now. One of them being Royal. Means that Viper might be dethroned from the center. Push forward. Lombos trying to target them out. One Robotiquin almost down. He doesn't want to be in range. He knows how long the setup is. It should be enough to disengage. But the hand cannoneer is making a mistake here, hanging around. Robotiquin's going for the trade out. Should be a decent one for them in the end, especially the assist of the Culverins. So many Culverins now, up to 8. But here come the Horsemen. Viper He says, you, sir, have been too greedy today. And I am here to be your punishment. The Robotiquin being ignored may be a mistake out of Viper, though. Nice snipe out. Lombos get rid of it. Straight in on top of him. And this is a heavy loss. 1,000 resources per. And he had about 10. And he might not have any left at the end of this. The Horsemen burning him down one by one. An organized retreat. It doesn't feel like it. Into the choke point. Doesn't work out to your advantage, though. Still too exposed to the Horsemen. All the Culverins going down. The Cannoners as well. It's a good trade. Viper finding huge value out of these Horsemen. The patience pays off. Now, Beastie. How do you fix this? Your gold is lacking, sir. Trying to tap it dry. Still has the reserves in the north. But you can see that's not going to last long. The Trebuchet's moving in. Trying to trebuchet Beastie out of this area. Stables getting value for the moment. They're quickly going to lose that discount they once had. The ride in, the backstab from Beastie, trying to do what damage he can, but few spearmen might hold him at bay. Tries to wrap him from the north side as well as the Trebuchets will wheel it back. Not sure if it's going to be enough, though. Trebs able to retreat fast here. Viper keeping plenty of them alive as the Knights slowly pursue while being stabbed in the back by arrows and spears. With the new reinforcements coming out, you can't help but feel like Viper is in full cruise mode right now. Only 33 military for Beastie. Meanwhile, around 60 to 70 at all times for Viper, having the number advantage. And now, once again, the Horsemen see their opportunity to strike. They go in onto the Culverins. And quickly, he tries to wheel them away, but too slow in this situation. Horsemen going to get value again. And that's GG. He knows it's done. No ground to be gained. Has lost the fort expansion. Everything looking thumbs down. The Culverin play an interesting choice out of Beastie, but it doesn't pay in the end.